New year, new season, new slate of games on the college football schedule for the University of Maryland Terrapins. And in a game they were favored to win, in a game where they were the better team, they lay a pterodactyl-sized egg, at home, mind you, to the Michigan State Spartans. Now they head down to Charlottesville for a primetime Saturday night matchup on the ACC network as Maryland and Virginia rekindles a classic ACC rivalry in the game of football. Make sure you guys, if you're back with us again, it's already week 3 of college football. Can you believe it? We're moving right along. Sack that subscribe button if you're new. Hit stick that like button. And go ahead and bulldoze that bell. Sound off in the comment section down below. Let me know your thoughts on the Terps as they are 1-1 and look to avoid falling to a dreadful 1-2 start. SOT. Same old Terps. Can't get it done. And here I am thinking that they would be 2-0 coming into this game. But let's look back real quick before we look forward, and then let you get my score prediction, as I'm blindly probably still going to ride with them yet again. Last week in College Park, Jonathan Kim of the Michigan State Spartans converted a 37-yard field goal, their kicker, with 1 second left, giving Michigan State a 27-24 victory over Maryland in the Big Ten opener. Aiden Childs, I talked about him last week. He is inconsistent. He is young. He is an enigmatic player, but he can make big-time plays. And the Terps defense, which I'll get to in a little bit, especially on the back end, is susceptible to the big play. Man, they I they can't keep things. They can't stop anybody from getting big plays. They outgained Maryland 493 to 339. Anytime you're giving up 493 yards defensively, that's a problem. That's damn near 500 yards. Billy Edwards did throw a 28-yard pass to Dylan Wade in the fourth quarter. The Terps were up 24 to 17. Then the Spartans came back. The Terps defense, as mentioned, gives up a 77-yard touchdown with 4 minutes 11 seconds remaining. Edwards was 26 of 34, threw for 253 with 2 touchdowns, did have a bad interception, but he lost his first game in 5 starts as the Terps quarterback. This goes back to last season. Ty Felton, though, he has been fantastic early on in the season. We think about the great lineage of Terpin wide receivers. Stephon Diggs, DJ Moore. You got to put Ty Felton in that conversation. He's a senior. He'll be playing on Sundays, and Ty Felton will support you here in the Flex Zone, brother. Big shout out to Ty Felton. 11 passes, 154 yards, joining another former Raven and Maryland Terpin receiver, Jermaine Lewis, in 1995 to have more than 150 yards in consecutive games. Ty Felton, I hope he can keep this up, especially against some Big Ten competition when we get to the USCs, the Oregons, the Iowas, so he can really help his draft stock. And hey, Eric DeCosta, Baltimore Ravens, right up the road in Baltimore, in Owings Mills. We need a receiver, right? Ty Felton. I think he's about 6'1". He's bigger than I thought too, so he might be that next good Maryland receiver. Nick Marsh, 77-yard touchdown. He had 8 receptions for 195 yards, so look out for Nick Marsh. Is he a freshman? I mean, him and Giles were eating up the Maryland defense, as I mentioned, like some crab soup. Maryland couldn't run the ball. They only had 86 yards on 31 carries. They look like the Ravens. Their offensive lines could not get pushed, could not open up holes to run the football. And we complain as fans and as pundits and as analysts and as podcasters about, oh, get the ball to Derrick Henry, or me, get the ball to Roman Hemby, get the ball to these guys and let them run the football. You still got to be able to block. It's BYOB, be your own blocker. And that means you got to make a guy or two miss to make plays. 31, for 86? That is only 2.7 yards a carry. Let me see. 86 divided by 2.7 yards a carry. Not even 3 yards a carry. That's unacceptable. That is terrible. Gotta do better. Gotta do better. Shout out to Glendon Miller. He had 2 picks. He has 1 interception in at least 4 straight games, 1 shy of the program record set by Lewis Sanders in 1999. Maryland had costly penalties, turnovers, special teams blunders, and big plays they gave up. But they lose 27-24, and like I mentioned, same old Terps. Just when I thought they had a favorable early schedule, you don't play Michigan, you don't play Ohio State this year. You don't have to play Nebraska and Dylan Raiola. You don't have to play some of the big time schools. You have USC and Oregon and Washington and some of those teams, but you don't have to play the big, big, big time guys, the Ohio States, the reigning defending Michigans. Yes, USC is good, and they're probably going to beat the Terps like a drum, but it's just frustrating. It's very frustrating. That's all I can say. But let's get to this week. For the first time since 2012, the border rivalry between Virginia and Maryland returns to Scott Stadium in Virginia for a Saturday night primetime showdown. Cavaliers are looking to improve to 3-0 for the first time since 2019, but they'll have to avenge last season's 28-point loss to the Terrapins in College Park. The two old ACC foes renew the rivalry once again as well. Virginia comes in 2-0, 1-0 after a win against Wake Forest, a come from behind victory. Let's just say this Terps team is not 28 points better than this Virginia team. I think this Virginia team is a lot better than this Terps team saw them last year. Terps 1-1, 0-1 in the Big Ten. 8 p.m. start, Scott Stadium on ACC Network. Maryland leads the all-time series 45-32 with 2 ties. And last year, they defeated Virginia 42-14, pretty much a year to the day. A year to the day, 1 day prior, 42-14, September 15th last year, up here in College Park. Maryland is visiting Virginia for the first time since 2012. They played each other for 57 consecutive seasons from 1957 to 2013 as Maryland left for the Big Ten prior to the 2014 season. Maryland leads 45-32-2 in the all-time series. It dates back to 1919, and the Terps have won 4 out of the last 5 meetings, including last season. Virginia's last victory over Maryland at Scott Stadium was in 2008 at 31-0 shutout. Virginia is hosting Maryland in a night game at Scott Stadium for the 3rd time, having won the previous 2 meetings. Keep this in mind, 92 and 2008. So they're 2-0 in night games at home against Maryland. Virginia is playing its 3rd straight night game and is 41-21-1 in night games at Scott Stadium. The Cavaliers are seeking their first 3-0 start since the 2019 season, 4th 3-0 start in the last 25 years. The other 3 Virginia teams to start 3-0 each made a bowl game. 6 wins makes you bowl eligible in college football. Everybody gets a bowl, like Oprah giving out cars and things like that. You get a bowl, you get a bowl. Maryland, this is a game you got to win. Now, I did think the Michigan State game would be tougher than led on. I did have them covering, but pulling away late. This is a winnable game. This is a game they should win. I think it will be more of a higher scoring game. I think the over-under is in the 50s. I think Maryland does win here. I don't really have too much analysis. I don't know too much about Virginia football. I really don't know what they look to bring to the table. I think Anthony Colindre, the Virginia quarterback, he threw 3 picks last year and on consecutive possessions as well. And they scored touchdowns on each of those. But and against Wake Forest, he threw 2 interceptions. One was only his fault, but he bounced back and, as I mentioned, led the comeback as well. That's going to be a key. I think really the key comes down to what quarterback plays better. If Colindre, Anthony Colindre, I believe that's how you say it. Colindrea, Colindre. I'm gonna go Anthony Colindre. If he plays up to his potential, and I guess whatever quarterback turns the ball over less, because it seems like both of them may give one to the other team. At least Colindre. I don't know. because I really don't know too much about him. I don't know too much about him, but he seems like a guy who's up and down.
Who? Who? Go Google it. Go Google it.
I Googled it. I'm looking him up right now, but Anthony Collindre, he, like I said, he did lead the comeback last week against Wake Forest for Virginia. And Virginia's pass rush. So I think whichever quarterback plays better, I think Edwards and Collindre may both have a turnover, but I think Edwards plays a little bit better. I want to see Edwards use his legs a little more this week. I know they mentioned they didn't get the running game really going a lot, but I think Edwards only had minimal carries. I don't think he carried it more than 5 or 6 times. I'm going to fact check that right now. But Edwards was 26 of 34. Hemby only 12 carries for 35 yards. Nolan Ray, the electrifying rookie, 8 carries for 20 yards. McDonald, 3 for 15. Edwards, 6 carries for 13 yards. I do want to see him run a little more. It was not a lot of design runs for him. It was more of a drop back and throw type of game. Like they were trying to prove that Billy Edwards can throw from the pocket, which he has improved upon and looks pretty good. Did miss a couple throws deep as well. Let's not forget that. I remember that during the game. They probably missed at least 2 or 3. Aiden Childs missed about 2 or 3 as well, but he connected on another 2 or 3, the 77-yard bomb, the touchdown, to really break this game open. If Billy Edwards connects on his, we're looking at a win for the Terps, in my opinion. But I think they need to do more of the read option, more of the option, more of the RPO thing to let Edwards use his mobility. That's his best aspect. Hemby, get him the ball. Use Ray. Maybe use Ray out of the backfield more. Give him the ball. We know Ty Felton is going to do his thing. I think I could see Felton get another 100 yards this week. Wade had 4 for 49. Prather, 5 for 38. Let's get another guy that can maybe get over 50 yards. I think my Ravens keys, I had 2 Ravens receivers over 60 yards. They had likely over 100 in the opener, and I think Zay over 50. So let's get 2 Ravens, like I said, 2 Ravens players over 60 yards. Let's get 2 Maryland guys. I think Felton will give you around 100. I'm going to say he gets 100 or more. And then I think maybe let's see if Wade, Prather, or one of those guys can maybe give you over 50, 60 yards. And then maybe use Nolan Ray, 2 for 7 yards. Maybe throw it to him a little more out of the backfield. As I mentioned, Virginia has a really good pass rush. One way to neutralize a pass rush, screen passes, draws, things to really make them hesitant when they're rushing the quarterback, that you can get off of these easy completions that are an extension of your running game. As I mentioned, it slows down the pass rush. You throw those quick hitches, those screen passes. You get the ball out quick. It slows them down. They're thinking twice, and you have opportunities and open throwing lanes to make easy completions with the RPO game. So I want to see Edwards do a little more with his legs, with design play calls, with Mike Locksley drawing it up. We know he's in the room with the quarterbacks, and we know he's the catalyst of this offensive scheme and blueprint. I want to see him draw up things to utilize Billy Edwards' athleticism, especially against, I think, a good pass rush. You don't want him just standing back there as a statue with the offensive line that you have. Hemby, I want him to get more than 12 carries, but I think Felton gets you over 100, and I think, let's see, Wade or Prather get over 50, 60 yards, help out Felton, because eventually it's time going to come where Felton's going to get doubled, and somebody's going to wake up and put all their coverage on Felton. They're going to need another guy, Wade, Prather, Octavian Smith Jr., McDonald, one of these young guys to step up to be a receiver that can help out this offense. As I mentioned, I want to see more out the run game. Hemby and Ray, I'd like to see them combined for over at least 25 carries combined. So Hemby could get his 15, Ray can get his 10. It looks like they're going to use McDonald as well. Hey, I want to see these guys run the football. They only had they ran the ball, like I said, 31 times, 2.8 per carry. Can they get over 3.5, close to 4? We shall see. We shall see. On defense, Ruben Hippolyte, he's doing fantastic. He had 8 tackles last week. Clinton Miller, 7 tackles and an interception. But the secondary, they got a lot of young guys. A lot of the guys have gone on to the NFL playing on Sundays. They're going to have to grow up and grow up quickly, because they're going to be tested this week, and they're going to continue to be tested in the Big Ten. And they're going to have to really, really clamp down. And they can't be giving up 400, almost 500 yards a game on defense. That's just unacceptable. That is not what you want to do. I don't care who you're playing. You give up that many yards, you're going to be playing a lot of close games and in situations where you could lose and get beat. But like I mentioned, Virginia had 6 sacks last season. 5 came from non-D linemen. So that is crazy because they only had 1 sack in week 1 and 11 sacks in the entire 2023 season as well. So look out for the linebackers and the secondary blitzes as well, Billy Edwards. So you're going to have an opportunity probably for one-on-one coverage on the outside if you can get time to throw in the pocket because they're going to be blitzing the linebackers. They're going to be blitzing the corners. So you're going to have some opportunities, Ty Felton and other receivers. And I think if they can, like I said, hold up enough, I think this is going to be a fun back and forth game. I think whichever quarterback plays better, I think Billy Edwards will win the game. And I think whichever quarterback turns it over less, I could see both throwing a pick, but I could see Colin Dre maybe giving us 2 interceptions and the Maryland defense waking up the secondary, getting confident and making some plays and really growing up in a primetime stage, maybe getting 2 interceptions and really helping this offense out over the short field and allowing them to run the football and use play action and use the RPO read option game to create some opportunities to do what they do best offensively, run the football and then take your shots with guys like Felton down the field and use Billy Edwards as a runner just as much as a passer. Like I said, use him in motion, get him outside the pocket, let him use his athleticism and decide if he wants to take off and run. If not, he has opportunities to throw the football, but you can't have him back there like a statue because this offensive line is not going to hold up against a Virginia team that seems like it's going to draw up a lot of different types of pressures from their non-D linemen. But I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think it's going to be back and forth. I think it's going to be another tight ball game that's going to keep us on the edge of our seats on Saturday night, which I'll be watching, maybe talking about at some point, probably if not, definitely in my preview next week before the Villanova game. And I think the Terps win 30-27 with the last second go ahead field goal. They redeemed themselves from last week. They get their win back. They improved to 2-1. And the thing that they didn't do well last week, special teams, missing kicks, not being, and that's another thing with these Loxley teams. We talk about it with hardball teams with the clock management. Sometimes they're not disciplined. Loxley's team lacks discipline a lot of times, getting stupid, boneheaded penalties. They'll make a great play, make a highlight reel, acrobatic, noteworthy play that could really help them win the game and give them the momentum that they need. And then they get a stupid, boneheaded, low football IQ penalty. And it's like, what are we doing with the coaching staff that we're not preparing these guys to not get these simple, boneheaded penalties that are costing them games they should be winning? They should be 2-0. Like I mentioned, after this, they have Villanova at Indiana and Northwestern. I think they could win those next 3. I think they could really win those next 3. We'll see. And we'll go from there. Then you're at homecoming against USC. But I'll put it on the screen so you guys can see it. But you really should have been potentially 6-0 going into that game against USC. And then you got at Minnesota, at Oregon, Rutgers, Iowa. Could have got to 9, maybe 10 wins at least. But you got Virginia this week, 8 p.m. ACC Network. Check your local listings. 105.7 The Fan up here in the Maryland, Baltimore area. We'll have the game as always. And Johnny Holiday and the crew will be on the call. But I am going with the Maryland Terps. I'm going to ride with them one more time, y'all. I am going to believe in them. I'm going to roll with Loxley. I think they are going to do enough to pull out a win. Like I mentioned, I think it's going to be another last second win. They're going to do it's going to be a walk-off, but I can see a late, maybe within the last 2 minutes, a go-ahead field goal. And maybe get a defensive stop, an interception to seal it. How about that? To make up for the despicable way they played last week in the secondary. Just letting guys run wide open, giving them free reign to do what they want. I'm done ranting. It's life as a Maryland football fan. You love them. You want them to do well. You think this is your year. We're going to be better. We're going to finally see the fruits of our labor after moving to the Big Ten and being the whooping boys for the last 5 years. We're going to finally see those recruits, those 4-star recruits, those transfers, those NIL athletes that we paid in free agency. And they can't beat Michigan State at home, and hopefully they can beat Virginia. But they got Virginia this week. They should be able to get to 2-1. Like I mentioned, I think they win 30-27. Go ahead field goal, seal the game with a game-ending takeaway, forcing a turnover with an interception. I think they get 2 tomorrow. I don't know if they go crazy running the football, but I think they do enough. They get more than 80 yards rushing. I think they make enough plays. Ty Felton on a couple of big plays to hopefully just take the heart out of the Cavaliers. But we'll talk about it. Make sure you sack that subscribe button if you're new. Stick that like button. Helps us out tremendously in the algorithm. Let YouTube know you like what you see and you want others to learn about the Flex Zone podcast. Bulldoze that bell to know when all content drops. And sound off in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts on this game. Thoughts on the Michigan State game, which you look forward to seeing in this renewal for the ACC rivalry. I love it. Wish they would do it more. Hope they do it more, and I love seeing it in basketball as well. I miss being in the ACC. Man, if Maryland was in the ACC, I keep saying it. Ooh, that would be great. They would be competing for an ACC championship within the next couple of years, possibly. But I'm signing off. Let me know your thoughts down below. It's the Flex Zone podcast. Going with Maryland to beat Virginia 30-27. And get to 2-1. Come on, Terps, you got this. I believe in you, even though you get on my damn nerves, and you can't be anything more than the SOTs. Same old Terps. I'm getting out of here. Enjoy the game on primetime, 8 p.m. Let's go get a win, Maryland, 30-27.